Divine Destiny: Equipping the Family for Success by Linda Clark Burley. All rights reserved. No part of this book may be used or reproduced by any means, graphic, electronic, or mechanical, including photocopying, recording, taping, or by any information storage retrieval system without the written permission of the publisher, except in the case of brief quotations embodied in critical articles and reviews. Divine Destiny: Equipping the Family for Success. Part 1: Relationships.
Adam woke up and beheld what a gift God had created especially for him. Adam cried from within his inner being and called her woman because Eve was the bone. She was a brick house. She was bone of his bone and flesh of his flesh. Eve had it going on. According to Adam, it was all good, and God gave them both dominion to rule the world together. Throughout the years, a microwave generation has taken marriage out of context. Today's generation wants to work its way up the corporate ladder and instantly land CEO positions, but the members of this generation lack basic business management skills. They want to be instant millionaires, yet they have no clue regarding business accounting and money management. As a result of their lack of knowledge, they will find themselves bankrupt or on government assistance. This generation lacks the wisdom of knowing how to build on a solid foundation. There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under heaven. Marriage is so much more than just having sex. Marriage requires work. You're working to perfect your relationship and those things you value. Marriage can be a rewarding experience. It's like working on a puzzle with everything scrambled and out of place. While it doesn't look like the picture on the front cover of the box, as you begin to work with the pieces of the puzzle, you soon discover that the pieces will come together to form a beautiful masterpiece. Marriage is so similar to that puzzle. In the beginning, after the honeymoon stage, after the passion dies and you come back to earth, the real you makes its way to the surface, and all the hidden things you forgot to talk about prior to the wedding seem to emerge suddenly. Both of you have issues. Sadly, neither one of you ever took the time to ask each other about your personal lives. Now here comes the drama. You're entering into each other's twilight zones, and you're both so different. You're entering into each other's strange, new worlds, but with time, things will fit in place properly. Soon you will begin to see the pieces come together, just like that puzzle. It will fit like a masterpiece. But before your wedding, stop and talk so you won't have any surprises the morning after the honeymoon. I advise young couples to talk about everything first before making any commitment. Do this during the courting process. Express your concerns and expectations, ask lots and lots of questions, and never feel you are out of place by asking such personal questions. You want to know everything about the person you are planning to spend the rest of your life with. What are his or her goals and aspirations for life? What is his or her economical and financial status? Is he or she knowledgeable regarding money management? What is his or her credit and criminal background? You want to make sure that, after you get married, life for you won't be bankrupt. You want to know his plans for family planning. You have always dreamed of having a large family, and perhaps he has never dreamt of having children at all. You both need to ask each other these vital questions. You should cover these issues before you both say, "I do." Does he or she have a pre-existing family from a previous relationship? Is he or she single or married? You would be surprised how many people say they are single when they are actually married with children. Does he or she own or rent a home? Does he or she still reside at home with her parents? Does he or she have his own transportation, or does he or she use public transportation? Is he or she employed or pursuing a college degree? You want to feel secure in knowing that you have financial security for the future. For those women searching for a mate, you should not marry an unemployed man. If he is pursuing his college education, let him complete his degree before committing to marriage. With that in mind, you will know you have financial security for the future, because people with degrees are normally hired for better paying jobs. It is so very important to find out the status of the person you plan to spend the whatever you can think to ask. Ask it. Ask about likes and dislikes. Ask about qualities he or she wants in a mate. Now is not the time to be shy. These are vital questions when you search for a mate. Both of you should be willing to be open and talk about everything concerning your relationship before making such a serious commitment to avoid any issues later. It's good for two people to both have something in common and something to bring to the table. Seek the Lord in prayer concerning His plans for your life. Ladies, you should not want to marry a man so he can be your bill provider. You should not search for a sugar daddy to take care of you and your babies. You shouldn't be in a rush to get married just because you feel your biological clock is ticking and Danny thinks life is passing you by. The Lord will always send confirmation of His plans and purpose for your life. So many times, we ignore the warning signals just to fulfill our own lustful desires, and as a result, many people find themselves in wounded and abusive relationships. Seek and ye shall find. You ask the question, where does it all begin? It all begins with the Word of God. Alight thyself also in the Lord, and He shall give you the desires of your heart. Commit your ways unto the Lord, trust in Him, and He shall bring it to pass. P.S. 37:4-5. When it comes to the scriptures, many people have their favorite passages, such as the one listed above that says God will give you the desires of your heart. They overlook the part that says to delight yourselves in the Lord and commit your ways unto Him. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all His righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. So many times, couples never take the time to first seek God's guidance concerning their lives. To receive the benefits that God has to offer you, requirements must be met. Think of it like an insurance policy, for example. In most cases, the first requirement is that you must meet your deductible, and after that, you're free to take full advantage of your benefits. Could it be that God just might have whispered something in your ear and you just did not want to hear it? Maybe He is trying to tell you something. The Lord could be telling you to wait. Waiting doesn't always mean no. Sometimes, it just means, not yet. That is one of the reasons why people find themselves caught up in abusive relationships, feeling like they have no way out, like they are living on the ragged edge of life, feeling suicidal, and sometimes committing murder as a means to escape. The decisions you make in life could determine your destiny. They could help or hurt you. Seek the things of God first, and wait for His directions. God will always give you an answer in one form or another. God prepares us for our futures. That is why it is essential to choose the right mate to spend the rest of your life with. When God gives you a mate, that person will love you with the love of God. I see so many marriages headed for divorce court. Statistics show a high percentage of those marriages concern some Christian couples. You may hear Christian couples say, God told me this was my mate. In my opinion, this is the perfect reason to justify the things you desire to do. Is God really guiding you to marry this person, or are your fleshly desires getting the best of you? You must be able to distinguish between the two. For example, you said God told you that this person was your mate. Let's just say you marry this person, and all hell starts to break out. What was God saying when you had to miss church in order to care for the wounds from the fight you had the night before? What was God saying when you put on sunglasses to disguise your black eye? You are hiding and making excuses, but everyone, your church family, your colleagues, and even the members of your community, knows what is going on. What was God saying when you had to drag your mate out of the nightclub as he sat entertaining another woman? Or as you waited for him outside the crack house? Now you are praying for God to deliver you out of all your troubles. My sisters and brothers, God will not place clean and unclean together because it is impossible for both to walk together. You are listening to your heart instead of your mind. Your heart is the state of consciousness having to do with the arousal of feeling and excitement. It all revolves around what you are feeling. On the other hand, the mind is our state of reasoning, the thought of reality. Your mind pays attention to the things around you. The mind perceives and observes, and it heeds. The mind takes care of and watches over you. Your heart is saying, I'm so in love with this person, and love will cover a multitude of sins. But deep down inside, you know this person has issues dealing with jealousy. He may have already told you that he has problems with other men looking at you. Your mind is saying, caution, caution. Red, your mind is also saying, here we go again, another roller coaster of issues. Caution. He will break your heart. Caution. Red light. Red light. It's a matter of wrestling with self and selfishness. Self is a factor of adjustment, meaning you now have to regulate and conform and go through the changes in order to keep up with him, and in the midst of trying to keep up, you began to lose your own identity. All the signs are right in front of you. Family and friends may warn you that this is not the right person for you, but you choose to follow your heart, thinking it's God's will for your life. Sisters and brothers, God will never place you in an unhealthy situation. God wants the best for you because He loves you just that way. It will be up to you to make the right decisions for your life. Be prayerful and seek the things of God, so you will not fall for the snares that Satan has to offer you. It is a dangerous thing to end up sleeping with the devil. Searching and single, never allow anyone to rush you into making quick decisions. Remember, this is your life. You must learn to make wise choices, because the decisions you make could cost you for the rest of your life. People who enter into marriage for the wrong reasons, 9 times out of 10, are headed for disaster. Do not use marriage as an excuse to fill the voids in your life. Some issues will take God to deliver you out of. It is unfair to have someone step into your life who is unaware of the types of luggage you are carrying. You must deal with your demons first before inviting anyone to share your life. You must be able to identify who you are and find yourself. God has destined the directions of your life. He has made you a new creation, and He came so you might have life. In Him, there is liberty. You can do anything through Christ that strengthens you. You're more than a conqueror through Christ Jesus. You first start with identifying who you are. God can deliver you from all your past issues. You will never be able to go forward until you put your past behind you. Know within yourself who you are. At times, no one will be there to affirm you and tell you how lovely you look. You don't need anyone to tell you. Know within yourself who you are. You are a gift to creation. When you begin to realize your worth, you can take a look in the mirror, snap your fingers, and call your own self blessed, because you will realize you are God's finest creation at that moment. To all my sisters out there suffering from low self-esteem due to a broken heart, sister girl, you are bold and beautiful. Everything about you is unique, because you are an original and worth waiting for. Don't sell yourself short for any man, and don't be so desperate that you settle for just anything. You will be in for a rude awakening, because that person will break your heart one day, especially when you thought you were the only one in his life. Let's just say you meet a man who you thought was everything you ever dreamed of having. He may whisper sweet things in your ear. He may tell you everything you want to hear. He promises to give you the world. He may tell you how much he loves you and touch you in the right places, sending chills up your spine, but you have only been acquainted with this person for a few short months. You know nothing concerning his background, but you feel you have met your Mr. Right. You have let your guard down, and you have completely opened yourself up to this person, your mind, body, and soul. You think the next step will be wedding bells. You have already begun to imagine what the day will be like. You wait by the phone, hoping he will call you. When you call him, he's too busy to talk, or you get his voicemail, saying to leave a message and he will get back with you, but he never returns your calls. His visits become fewer and fewer. Now you're left wondering what is really going on. Then finally one day, He just happens to answer your call and basically informs you that the relationship is over and he has found another lover. In fact, he goes further to say that the other woman is much more compatible than you are and she meets his every need. By this time, you're wondering whether to strangle him or bust a cap in his behind. You need all the prayers you can get just to keep your composure. You are not in the spirit to pray. All you think about now is revenge and how you can get back at him. He has hurt, humiliated, and disgraced you. You introduced him to your family and friends. He even came with you to church one Sunday. What are you going to do now, and what will people think? You gave this person all you could give, and that was all of you. Could it be, baby girl, that you set up your own self for a fall? He had all of you, your mind, body, and soul, before he ever made a commitment to you. You were committed to him, but he, on the other hand, did not share the same sentiment. If you are good enough to sleep with, then you're good enough to make it legal first. If he cannot commit to that, he is not worth your time. A marriage is a mandate by God. So many couples choose to play house before marriage. If things don't work out, the marriage is out the window, and they go their separate ways because there is no level of commitment. Ladies, never place yourself in a compromising situation. If he loves you, he will be willing to wait forever or however long it takes because you are worth the wait. During the process of courting, you're getting to know each other, and that takes time. Don't allow anyone to rush you into a relationship just because he wanted to get you between the sheets. You might just be in for a rude awakening. What's Love Got to Do with it? Tina Turner had a song in the 80s. What's love got to do with it? A song that could have came straight from Tina's heart. Tina married Ike Turner, a man who didn't value her as a person with so much to give. Ike only valued what Tina could do for him, which meant Tina's talent was a profit for Ike Turner. The marriage ended in divorce as a result of abuse. Life for Tina was hard, and Ike was Tina's meal ticket to a better life. She was talented. She could sing and dance. Ike basically rode on Tina's dress tails. Tina lived a life filled with unhappiness, abuse, depression, and suicide attempts. It was a life filled with hell, and after being beat so many times, she decided that enough was enough. Everything that glitters is not always gold. I bet, if Tina had to do it all over again, she would have done things differently. Coming through the storms of her relationship with Ike made Tina stronger. She was able to let go of the pain from the past and create songs that empowered women going through similar situations. She helped them realize that they too could take a stand and be strong enough to walk away from the pain of an abusive relationship. Sometimes you must let go of the hurtful things in your life in order to fulfill God's given purpose. Don't sell yourself short for what God has for you. It's worth waiting for. God wants to give you the hidden treasures of this world. Don't go treasure hunting without a compass to guide you, or else you might get lost. God is your compass, and He's the only one who can lead you to your hidden treasures. You don't want to find yourself in a relationship where you have to fight your way out of it, as in the case of Tina Turner. The basics to living a happy, healthy life are based on love. Anytime you love someone, you do not want to see him or her hurt. In marriage, you're committed to each other. You are partners, and you should have each other's back. I hear men and women always say, there are no good women and men out there anymore. But they do exist. God will never run short of a few good men and women. 1 Kings 19:9-18 tells the story of a prophet who gets very discouraged because he feels there was no justice. People were not keeping the laws of God, and many prophets had been murdered under the hand of Queen Jezebel. Elijah felt he was the only prophet left keeping the laws of God, but God had news for him. God directed him to get up from his pity party because he had a job for him to do. God had chosen kings to be over Israel. Elijah's instructions were to go and ordain these men, and then God encouraged Elijah with the news that he had 7,000 people in Israel who had not bowed down to Baal. So don't think all the good people are distinct. God has not chosen to reveal them yet. Do the right things, and wait for the promises God has for you. Don't sell yourself short for anyone. You're God's precious gift, and you're worth the wait. If you're a virgin, be proud of what you stand for. You are a precious vessel. It should not matter what others may say or think. You are highly esteemed and favored in God's eyes. Why is it so important to stay a virgin until marriage? It is a covenant of love ordained by God, reserved for the season you share with your mate. Baby girls, you are special. Don't buy the garbage that guys pitch to you. It's an old deception when they say, "Prove your love for me, and let's have sex." It should be the first signal to run and not look back. Your body is precious, a vessel unto God, and you don't want to share it with just anyone or everybody. I realize we are living in a new age generation. Most young ladies will not agree with me, and you can love me or hate me, but I'm just being real and telling you the truth. Why does God insist that young women stay virgins until marriage? Let's see what God has to say about this subject. Deuteronomy 22:13-21 states, "If a man takes a wife and, after sleeping with her, dislikes her and slanders her and gives her a bad name, saying, 'I married this woman, but when I approached her, I did not find proof of her virginity,' then the young woman's father and mother shall bring to the town elders at the gate proof that she was a virgin. Her father will say to the elders, 'I gave my daughter in marriage to this man, but he dislikes her. Now he has slandered her and said, I did not find your daughter to be a virgin. But here is the proof of my daughter's virginity.' Then her parents shall display the cloth before the elders of the town, and the elders shall take the man and punish him. They shall fine him 100 shekels of silver and give them to the young woman's father, because this man has given an Israelite virgin a bad name. She shall continue to be his wife. He must not divorce her as long as he lives. If, however, the charge is true and no proof of the young woman's virginity can be found, she shall be brought to the door of her father's house, and there the men of her town shall stone her to death. She has done an outrageous thing in Israel by being promiscuous while still in her father's house. You must purge the evil from among you. This law was meant to enforce premarital sexual purity and to encourage parents to instill the values of sexual purity within their children. It's hard for young people to listen to the parents' instructions when parents are doing the very same things. You tell your children what not to do. You tell them not to smoke because it's bad for their health, but you smoke. You tell them not to drink alcohol, but alcohol fills your cabinets. You tell them not to hang out in clubs when they know where to find you on Saturday nights. You tell them not to engage in sex, but they see you coming home with different men, closing the bedroom doors behind you. You are a parent living a double standard. If you expect your children to respect the rules you lay before them, then you, in return, must live by example. Normally, an engagement lasted for 12 months, and when the young man came to ask the girl's parents for her hand in marriage, he had to have some credentials. He had to have acquired something in life that was of worth. This young man had to prove to the young woman's parents that he could take care of their daughter when he took her to be his wife. He also had to bring gifts that were of worth to the young woman's parents. A box of candy was insufficient. He couldn't come empty-handed with just anything because he would most assuredly leave without a promise. The young woman's parents would not consider the young man a good candidate for their daughter. So many times, couples rush into marriage, and the young man had not attained anything in life. He has limited resources, education, and finances. They have no prior planning for the future and no parental blessing. They marry for love, but they have not counted up the cost. Love can't pay the bills and put food on the table. When there is a lack in finances, couples begin to have marital problems, which results in divorce in most cases. In my opinion, it is not up to the woman to take care of a man. If the man wants to make her his wife, he should be financially stable before taking on such a major responsibility. In the Old Testament during the courting process, the couples were never left alone for 1 second. Her family was always present during the duration of the engagement. Physical contact, including hugging and kissing, was forbidden. These can jump-start emotions to running. Mama used to say, "If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. And where there is smoke, there is fire." Mama knew what she was talking about. Christians in the dating stage need to be careful during this time. If a young man wants to come over to your place and have Bible study, the Bible won't be the only thing you will want to study once he gets there. Ladies, keep a level of integrity for yourself. You're too good to be spoken evil of. If the young man has respect for you, he will not suggest your place or his for the evening. He will see you to the door and keep on trucking. New age men and women are more aggressive nowadays. They want to try it out first to see if they like it, and if they get straight to the point, they only look for a booty call. Mama used to say, "Why buy the milk when you can have the cow for free? Why would he want to marry you when he can have his cake and eat it, too? You're only fooling yourself." A man will respect a woman when she respects herself first. In the Bible, if the man brought an accusation against the young woman, her parents were obligated to produce proof of her virginity, as with the bloodstains on the bed sheets. The evidence was a blood-stained garment or a bed sheet from the wedding night. Once a man breaks the seal of her virginity and enters her chambers, a spot of blood is produced that gives proof she is a virgin. If the blood was not produced, it meant she was not a virgin. Anything that has never been opened requires some type of pressure in order to allow access. Can you imagine your parents sitting outside your door, waiting for you to consummate the marriage so they can take your bed sheets to the elders of city to determine if you are a virgin or not? Records from various cultures in ancient Middle Eastern countries refer to this kind of evidence being made public. If the parents offered such evidence of her virginity before the marriage, then the man who made the false charges was to be whipped and had to pay the parents more money than he first paid for the young woman. It would be double the original bride price, because he too was slandering. That is, the accusation questioned the young woman's father's desire or ability to pass on values regarding sexual purity to his children. Also, his daughter was given a bad name. Support for the wife and perhaps the legal right of her firstborn child was protected by the forfeiting of the man's right to ever divorce his wife. On the other hand, if the husband's charges could not be disproved, then the wife was to be stoned at the door of her father's house. Not only was this harsh punishment intended for the sin of fornication or being promiscuous, it was also for lying to her prospective husband and presumably implicating her father in the deception. This evil was to be purged from the nation. Virgins were young women who had not engaged in sexual intercourse with a man. This term was sometimes used to describe the nation of Israel to emphasize its purity and holiness as the chosen people of God. Some of you are saying, "I've been there and done that. What's next?" Thank God for His love, kindness, and mercy for sending His Son Jesus Christ to allow humanity another chance at life. Christ has redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us, for it is written, "Cursed is everyone that hang on a tree," that the blessings of Abraham might come on the Gentiles through Jesus Christ, that we might receive the promise of the Spirit through faith. If we lived under the old law as it was written, that would wash out more than half the women of today, because the penalty for sex outside the marriage was death. There was no hope except through the cross and shedding of blood by Jesus Christ. So if you have been there and done that, you can't turn back the hands of time, but now you have a better understanding of the importance of keeping yourself pure before marriage. Start from where you are. Perhaps you are single and searching. Realize your worth, and wait on God. He has a purpose in mind for you. You might not have been aware of the importance of keeping yourself holy. God does hold us responsible for the things we do not have knowledge of, but when the truth comes, we are then held accountable for our actions. Keep yourself holy unto God. He will divinely send you the right mate in due season. It's important to wait on the Lord. When a woman has sexual intercourse with a man, she actually takes on the spirit of that man and becomes one with him. You don't want to hook yourself up with someone who is not fully hooked up to God. Did you not know that you take on the spirits of each person you have had sexual contact with? Every time you see that person, your heart will pound, and you will long for them. He will be on your mind even though the relationship is over. He will have gone on with his life, and you still will be holding on to the past. That person's spirit is a part of yours. You can't go on without him, but he has gone on without you. It will take the hand of God to deliver you from all the spirits you have entangled yourself with so you can leave the past behind and get on with your life. Be careful who you hook yourself up with. Preparations prior to saying I do. You want to be married, but are you prepared to take on such a big responsibility? In every stage in life, there is preparation. When we entered elementary school for the first time, we were not qualified to graduate the following year. There was a process of preparation, from elementary school to junior high and then high school, a total of 12 years to complete. Following high school, we are required to enter another level of higher learning, college. When you go out on the job market, you're required to attend the job training program first. Education and employment are the essentials to life planning, and if training is required, then wouldn't you agree that, along with everything else, there should be preparation before marriage? So many young people are unprepared to care of themselves, let alone a spouse and children. Have you ever come across some women who don't know how to do anything but look like a supermodel? The girl may have it all going on. She works an 8 to 5, Monday through Friday schedule. She spends all of her money on buying clothes. Whatever she wears looks good. Her hair and nails are always up to par. She looks like a runway model. She always has it going on. Until you step into her apartment. She has beanbags for furniture. Her home looks as if you stepped right out of the 70s era. Her dining room consists of patio furniture. Her bedroom furniture is what she accumulated when she left home. Her hospitality is unspeakable. She may offer you lunch that consists of a ham or cheese sandwich served on a paper plate, complete with a disposable cup of tea with no ice. Honey, do not even ask to use her powder room because it has been known that sister girl forgets to buy toilet paper. Just hope for the day you drop by for a visit that she has a roll on hand, or else you will be stuck in a bad situation. Sister girl definitely doesn't have it going on in the home-making young men out there also run their lives very much the same way. He looks the part but does not have his priorities in the right place. He rents an apartment, but doesn't have furniture because he spends all his money on clothes and cars. Or perhaps he still lives under his mother's roof at the age of 30. These two types of people are the perfect example of poor performance. They're both in for a fall before the roller coaster begins. They invest more in themselves rather than their future. They're two peas in a pod who live for today and not for the future. You have to learn how to balance both worlds. Live for today but also plan for the future. If you start planning early, your future will look bright. Most young people do not have a savings account. They're not educated on how to balance a checkbook, and if they have the privilege to get a credit card, they abuse it by charging up everything they can get on credit. They are not knowledgeable concerning their credit score. 3 things will follow you all the days of your life: your birth date, social security number, and credit score. By the time they reach 30, many young people already face financial problems. They want to live for the now instead of investing in the future. When you find yourself in debt, you're in a system that dictates what you can and cannot have. You place yourself in a situation that, instead of being a homeowner, you have to rent because your credit isn't good enough to buy a home unless God intervenes on your behalf. But young people start their families early without prior education and job skills. They start to have children at a young age without planning, and it's hard to attain good-paying jobs without a good education. As a result, they are caught up in this system where they have very little choices. Considering their situation, they either are forced to get a job with low wages and no benefits or rely on government assistance. With government assistance, you are caught in a catch-22 because now you are stuck in the system that dictates the type of jobs that you work. For example, if you earn too much income, you're ineligible for government assistance, so they want you to earn just enough money to depend on the system. This cripples you, and you're stuck in a system that never advances your future. Many parents have no other choice but to work and go back to school in order to attain a better income for the family and future. If you plan early, you will continue to plan your life for the future. You won't have to worry about depending on government assistance. Prior planning prevents poor performance, so start planning now for your future. Looks are just temporary. You may look like you have it all going on, but looks can be deceiving. Good looks won't put food on the table. If you cannot do the essential things required to have a successful marriage, you will have problems within 6 months. I often hear single women say, "When I get married, I'm not going to be stuck in the kitchen all day, and I am not cleaning up behind my man, because he's grown and can do it himself. I am not going to have to cook because we will eat out for dinner most of the time. I'm going to get a man who loves me whether I cook or not." What do you think my response was to that? Girls, are you crazy? Hello, wake up, and smell the coffee. This is not a soap opera. Honey, this is the real world. Get real. You have been looking at too many reality shows. No man will marry a woman who can't cook, and you have to have a good paying job in order to eat out every night. Girlfriend, you better take a cooking class and buy a few cookbooks because you will be single for a long time. It is essential to learn how to cook and clean up after yourself before bringing someone else into your life. Young men need to learn to be proficient in cooking and cleaning as well. There is no excuse for a young woman nowadays to say she cannot cook. Several cooking shows are on television today. You can get cookbooks and recipes online. There is just no excuse. I have never seen so many male chefs. In my day, we really didn't have any choices on learning how to cook. We only had a few cooking shows, the most popular being Julia Child. We didn't have internet, and we had to learn by process. If you know how to cook and clean up after yourself, 9 times out of 10, you're on your way to planning your future. You are learning how to be a good mate. Being independent is an essential. James Brown is a song that says, "I don't need anybody to give me nothing. Open up the door. I'll get it myself." Don't wait to get married for a man to give you something. Learn independence, and get it yourself. Learn how to cook, clean, work, and buy your own stuff. Have something to bring to the table so that, when you meet your mate, you will have something to give back as well. It is so sad when I see women looking for a man just so they can get married to get a house, car, and money. Why not be independent? Get up, and get it yourself. Never enter into a relationship. 99% of marriages end in divorce mainly due to financial setbacks. The pressures from being bogged down with bills can cause stress for many families. There can be a number of reasons for having financial setbacks, for example, a death of a spouse, loss of employment, and lack of financial planning, to name a few. Before entering into marriage, I strongly suggest attending a financial management course. It better prepares you for the future, and in the event that a setback should occur, knowing how to get through the tough times will better prepare you. Nothing in life prepares us for loss, but just knowing what to do in times of crisis can be a benefit. Prepare for your future. Don't just spend money unwisely just because you have it to spend. Learn to save for your future so that, when the time comes and you're ready to settle down and have a family, you will enjoy your life and have financial security. Prepare now so you will be ready when God sends you the gift. Homemaking 101. When I was in school, one of the requirements for graduation was taking home economics. Homemaking taught you the basics to being a good homemaker. It was the science and art of home management, including household budgeting, knowing how to be a wise shopper when it comes to shopping for food, clothes, and childcare, and eating the right foods for a healthy diet. These courses prepared young women and men for adulthood. Being a homemaker was definitely not on my agenda. Homemaking was a pastime for me, and plus, it was the easiest course to get a passing grade in. I had many dreams, one of which was to become a singer. I could always sing. I grew up singing since the age of 4, and I grew up in the church and always sang in the choir. I also dreamed of becoming a fashion model. I had the looks and the right weight. I had also taken a course in modeling. I had dreams of living in a mansion and driving a different car each day. I dreamed of going to Hollywood and being discovered in the spotlights. Oh, yes, I had dreams for myself, and being a wife with a house full of babies was not one of them on my agenda. After attending a sewing class for a semester, I found out that I had a gift for sewing. I had even thought about going to school in Paris one day and being a fashion designer. I was going to be a cosmopolitan woman. I did not want to be bound to traditional habits. I wanted to be my own woman doing many things in the business world. Annie and Walter Clark were my distant aunt and uncle who adopted me when I was 2 years old. I had other siblings, but they were adopted by different family members. In some African American families, it was normal to address the matriarch as Madia, short for Mother Dear. It is a term of endearment and respect. I had a wonderful childhood growing up. Mama and Daddy Clark saw to it that I lacked nothing. I was always dressed in the prettiest of dresses with lace socks and shoes to match. I was their only child, and they treated me like a little princess. I never recalled ever having a hungry day. I had so many clothes, and Mama had to store my winter clothes to make room for my summer ones. When my ex-husband and I first got married, he said he had never seen anyone with so many clothes. I had a well-rounded childhood. Daddy worked for a truck driving company. Mama was a homemaker. She worked part-time ironing clothes for the white folks, the Gilcrease. They were really nice people. They knew Mama had a small child at home, so they arranged to bring their laundry to our home. When Daddy was not working, he was at home with Mama and me. We had a large family. Family and friends always filled our home, especially during the holidays. My mother was a great cook and homemaker. Before she met Daddy, Mama was the head cook for a local diner called Tucker's, where the military soldiers often patronized for dinner on the weekends. They, along with her family and friends, loved Mama's cooking. Mama always kept our home nice and clean. She liked the finer things, and she would buy things that looked expensive at bargain prices. Mama believed you should always look your best wherever you go. I am grateful she instilled those same values in me, which I implanted into my children. As a child growing up, I would always have the pleasure of watching Mama cook in the kitchen. She brought out the best aromas with the different spices she used. Daddy didn't have to eat out. He had the best cook in our kitchen. Even with watching Mama cook, being a homemaker was just not what I wanted to do, so I ignored the basics to what Mama was trying to teach me. She even bought me a Betty Crocker cookbook, but I only enjoyed the desserts. When I was 16, a group of my girlfriends and me decided to get together and bake a cake. We didn't have a clue on how to bake a cake from scratch, but I had written down a recipe, and all my friends and I had no clue of what we were about to embark our lives upon. It was easy, and anyone could do it. Or so we thought. We mixed all the ingredients together just as the recipe called for. Sonia, Karen's sister, greased the pan, and I poured the batter in the pan and placed the cake pans in a 350-degree oven, just as the recipe instructed. We were so proud of ourselves, in spite of the disaster we created in the kitchen. Flour was all over the counters and floors. Eggshells were scattered from one end of the table to the other. While the cake baked, we cleaned the kitchen. The whole room looked like a science project gone bad. We cleaned up so Karen's mom wouldn't have a heart attack the moment she walked in from work. When our cake was ready to come out of oven, it smelled so good. We were so proud, but when we pulled the cake from the oven, it was a different story. It had dropped below its normal size. We wondered what went wrong. We had added all the ingredients the recipe called for, so Karen went over the recipe instructions again. 4 cups of flour, yes. 3 cups of sugar, yes. 1 teaspoon salt, yes. 8 eggs, no. My mother only adds 4, responded Karen. Okay, 4 sticks of butter, yes. 2 teaspoons vanilla extract, yes. 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Oops, I forgot to add the baking powder, said Sonia. Now we knew why the cake had come out looking like a stone. Karen's brother thought it was so funny. He grabbed our cake and ran like someone was chasing him out the door. He and his friends made such a joke of our disaster that they proceeded to play touch football with our pound cake, as we were standing there silently in humiliation. We watched our cake go flying through the air. It never even broke a crumb. I vowed that very day that I would never attempt to bake a cake again. I would leave all the cooking up to Mama. Prior to meeting my husband, Daddy Clark passed from a heart attack 6 months before I turned 15 years old. Daddy had 3 cardinal rules. 1. I had to graduate from high school. 2. I had to attend Prairie View College. 3. I had to acquire a professional trade, like a nurse, teacher, or secretary. Back then, black folks didn't have many choices. To be a black woman and an attorney was unheard of. Daddy always said he did not want his daughter to have to struggle the way he did when he was a young man. Daddy was strong-minded when it came to education. He felt I had opportunity he didn't have growing up. Dating and marriage was not even in the picture according to Daddy's wishes. Mama didn't feel as strong as Daddy did when it came to education. She gave me more space. She allowed me to start dating with her supervision, and she insisted that, in order for me to go out on a date, one of my cousins had to chaperone. When Daddy died, I felt that Mama wanted to get on with her life. Leaving a young girl home alone without parental supervision was not good because it created a window for promiscuous behavior. Please, darling hearts, never allow your mother to lie for you and say you did all the cooking when your mother actually prepared all those great dishes. One Saturday evening, I invited my future husband over for fish dinner. I knew fish was one of his favorite foods. The way to a man's heart is food, and I wanted his heart, so I knew Mama was just the person to get me there. I told Mama to prepare a fish dinner and say I did it. She prepared a great meal, which kept my soon-to-be husband's appetite coming back for more. Mama must have lied her head off because she was trying to get me hitched off. My mama got us through the evening. I played my props, and everything turned out perfect. My future husband was so amazed about my cooking skills that we were married 6 months later. The truth would finally come out that I did not know how to cook, iron, or wash clothes. I had no housekeeping skills at all. I had to learn the hard way, and my husband probably would have loved to strangle my mother for lying. Suddenly, reality would soon set in, and I would be introduced to the real world. Much to my surprise, I would actually regret not paying attention to my homemaking instructor and Mama. Their teachings would have really come in handy for later years to come. 6 months after my husband and I got married, we soon discovered we were about to have a bundle of joy. I couldn't cook and almost starved my husband to death. We ate a lot of fast food. Fried chicken was my best friend. We ate chicken for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and when we were not eating chicken, we were hanging out at the hamburger stand. Our wedding. My sister and I got together and decided we would surprise my husband with a pizza. It was a disaster. She or I didn't know anything about making a homemade pizza. We threw some dough together, thinking off the top of our heads. We decided to make a vegetarian pizza. We added everything to that pizza, including canned corn, string beans, and even spaghetti sauce. Then to top it off, we added cheddar cheese. We placed it in the oven and waited for the timer to go off. We waited for my husband to get home from work to surprise him. He took one look at his dinner and suggested takeout at the chicken stand, of course. I was not prepared to be a young wife or a mother. I was only 17 years old. I could not wash. Whites and colored clothes had only one thing in common. They were all dirty, and they all went into the washer at the same time. As a result, white blouses turned out pink or had multiple colors. After 12 months of marriage, our clothes had dwindled down to nothing. If I didn't change the colors of our clothes after washing, I would shrink them in the dryer. By then, the Burley family was growing. I had one baby on the way and another one hanging onto my dress tail. After the first year, my husband was so drained from starving and looking homeless. Somehow I had a strong notion he felt like shipping me back home to my mother with no return address. Darling heart, you must find a man who loves you for better or for worse. I strongly advise young women to prepare themselves before you get a husband so you know you will be able to take good care of him. If he is not in it for the long run, he will be out the door in a heartbeat. In another incident, I wanted to do something special and surprise my husband when he got home from work. So I washed his robe along with other white and colored clothing as usual. I mixed the clothes together and washed them in hot water. I then transferred the clothes from the washer to the dryer and set the dial on extra hot. And when the drying process was complete, I removed the clothes from the dryer. They were all faded as usual. I searched around for my husband's robe but could not find it. I separated the children's clothes from our clothes. I couldn't find his robe anywhere, so I looked in the washer. No robe. I looked in the dryer. Still no robe. I was baffled as to where the robe could have been. I thought perhaps I had just overlooked it and forgot to put it in the dirty clothes basket or left it in the car by accident. I searched the car all over and still did not find any robe. I decided to search through the children's clothing once more, and I couldn't believe my eyes. From the time the robe entered the washer to the time it went into the dryer, there it was, hidden in the children's stack of clothing. I didn't recognize it because it had shrunk from a man's medium size to a tiny tot size. Oh my God! I felt like I had just committed a cardinal sin. How could I have messed up so badly? This robe was very sentimental to my husband. He had never been without this robe since the age of 8. He was crowned king in this robe at his church pageant as a little boy. On his shoulders lay this royal blue velvet robe that draped the floor as he walked, and upon his head a crown to be king for a day. This robe became one of his childhood cherished memories. His mother took care of this robe until I got a hold of it. I held the robe up in front of me just to make sure my eyes were not playing tricks on me. Oh my God! I thought to myself. To my disgust, I was definitely looking at the right robe. So I folded the little robe and placed it underneath all the children's clothes in the basket. I raced home so I could arrive before he did, all the while trying to figure what story I was going to come up with. In the meantime, I hid the robe among the children's clothes and prayed to God he would have a memory loss concerning his royal blue robe. Months had passed, and I had totally forgotten about the robe until my husband asked me one day, "Linda, have you seen my robe?" I was going through some of my clothes and noticed my royal blue robe was missing. I said, "What royal blue robe?" He said, "You know, my favorite royal blue robe I was crowned king in when I was just a little boy." I asked, "Which one was that?" "I don't recall." "Perhaps you misplaced it when we were moving." He replied, alarmingly, "I don't have that many clothes left to store." I realized I was not going to get around this story, so I shamefully went and got the robe, held it up where he could take a good look at how I had ruined it, and held my breath. He looked like he had seen a ghost. "What in the hell is that?" I said, "Your robe." He said, "Whose robe?" I said, "Your robe." "But honey," I responded with tears in my eyes, sobbing like a child. I felt like such a failure. I felt as if I couldn't do anything right. Finally, after a week, we kissed and made up. But from that day forward, he was determined to care for his own clothing, what little he had left to salvage. After Daddy died, Mama decided she would get back in the dating stage again. She met an old friend named Duncan and fell head over heels for him. She didn't have time to teach me the basics of being a good housekeeper again, and I desperately needed a touch from an angel. God had an angel standing in the wings to teach me homemaking 101, Bernice Chandler Scruggs, my mother-in-law. She was a God-fearing woman who prayed continually. She was a saint. She had the gift to look into your life and tell you what God was doing. She knew your past and your future, and she was always on target. God revealed things to her in dreams and visions. She saw things in me I didn't see in myself. She would always say things like, "And one day, God will use you." I was young and wanted to enjoy my life. I was not ready to be converted, but she never pushed her religion on me. God had given her wisdom on how to handle a young girl like me. She handled me with lots of love and care. She knew I was a handful. If she had been like most mothers-in-law, she would have clawed right into me, trying to figure me out. I would not have been a good candidate to share her son's life. While she carried my husband in her womb, she had already declared what he would be. Mother Scruggs was converted shortly after my husband was born. He was to be a preacher, straight from the womb of his mother. I had no preparation on being a wife and a preacher's wife at that. I thought to myself, what in the world have I gotten myself into now? I was the type of young girl who didn't want anyone to tell me what to do, especially when it came down to correcting me. I hated being corrected because I felt I knew it all. How foolish of me when, in fact, I didn't know anything at all. For a short period, we stayed with my mother-in-law. I thought I would just suffocate and die. Mother Scruggs was a Martha Stewart of her time. She did it all, the wash, cooking, and cleaning. And, oh, did she clean. And Inspector could take a white glove and wouldn't find a spot of dirt on the glove. One day, I was doing our laundry, minding my own business, when Mother Scruggs cleared her voice and said, "Linda, would you mind if I just showed you something?" "Sure," I said. "What now?" I thought. She said with a soft voice, "Honey, it's important when it comes to the care of your clothes that you wash them properly." I said nothing but stood there shaking my head in agreement with a crack of a smile. It's important to separate your clothes, your white with the whites and your colors with your colored. That way, your white clothes will be real pretty, and your colored clothes are not faded. Not only did she tell me how to wash properly, she showed me how to measure my detergents properly. Normally, I would just pour washing powder into the machine. I wouldn't measure it, and I would just pour bleach right in the water on the clothes. You get the picture of what a mess it was. Mother Scruggs continued to instruct me. You have to wash colored clothes in cold water and your whites in hot water. I pretended I was taking it all in, but the moment she left the room, I thought to myself, she's not my mama. She can't tell me what to do. I proceeded to place all the whites and colored clothes together, pour the detergent on the clothes without measuring, add the bleach, and set the dialer on hot. Then just as I went to turn, Mother Scruggs passed by the kitchen. The washer was located between the kitchen and dining room. She glanced right at me, but she never said a word. She went directly to her recliner in the living room, pulled out her black Bible, and proceeded to read her daily devotional. I felt like an ass because, once again, the clothes came out of the dryer faded and shrunk, looking funky. Mother Scruggs never looked up. She just continued reading. The one person who took the time to teach me something I didn't know. And I needed all the help I could get. I wouldn't even allow her to help me. I was so foolish, but I didn't realize that, from that day forward, Mother Scruggs began to plant seeds into my life. I wanted to prove to her that I could pay attention and not be a Miss Know-It-All. A week after she showed me the correct way to wash, I decided to try it the way she had taught me. I separated the whites from the colored clothes. I set the correct temperature, hot for the white and cold for the colored. I measured the detergent just as she had showed me. I pulled up a chair. So far, so good, I thought to myself. When the dryer was complete, I pulled out the clothes. Lo and behold, they came out looking nice. I was dancing in the kitchen with so much excitement. I had finally done something right with the help of a great mother-in-law. I ran to her bedroom door and knocked on the door. She was praying, but I did not care. She slowly opened the door. "Linda, is everything all right? Look at the clothes I washed. They didn't come out stained or shrunk and looking funky." With a smile on her face, she looked through the clothes. "I knew you could do it." I felt as if I had won an Academy Award. Now that I was learning how to wash, I had two other major problems. I could not iron or cook. I was dangerous with an iron. My husband's good shirts ended up with designs from the iron, not the manufacturer. He always had the designs of an iron on the front and back of his shirts. I ruined so many of his good shirts. Sometimes I would just tell him I lost them on the way from the laundromat. In truth, I couldn't bear to tell him I had just ruined another one of his good shirts. I was really trying hard to be a good wife and mother. I was doing my best, but to my husband, my best was not good enough. His mother taught him to iron, and he taught me the same. Whenever we would go over to Mother Scruggs's house, she was always ironing for her husband, Reverend Scruggs, a pastor at the local church. She always made sure his shirts and handkerchief were washed and starched. She would say a preacher had to always look his best. I would pay attention to the way she would iron clothes. My husband ironed his clothes for a while until he could trust me with an iron again. With time, I did learn how to iron. After so many years, my husband got fed up and bought me a cookbook. It was one of the best gifts he could have given to me. From that cookbook, I began to learn how to cook and measure ingredients properly. To this day, I still have that old cookbook. I was blessed so many years ago to have a supportive husband who was willing to stick around to see what the end would be. But not every man would be willing to stick around waiting for you to learn the basics of good housekeeping, so make sure you learn the essentials before saying I do. If I had stopped long enough to listen and learn the basics, I would have been prepared to be a good homemaker, but I had to learn the hard way. Darling hearts, learn all there is to learn before you settle down and have children. Perhaps you have no plans of settling down, but you should still learn how to cook, iron, and clean. Those are the essentials to taking good care of you. If you can't take good care of yourself, how in the world will you be able to take care of a mate and children in the future? I wanted to share some of my experiences with you because I realize the importance of prior planning. Sharing your life with another individual can be a wonderful time in your life, but in order to make it work successfully, it starts with the fundamentals. You have to lay the foundation and ask God to prepare you for your mate. Wait on God to send you what you need, and once you have received what God has for you, learn to nurture and care for it. God will never give you anything you're not prepared to handle. Marriage is a ministry of divine love. Learn to appreciate each other's individualities and God-given abilities. Identify the laws of reconciliation and forgiveness. When God made man, it was all good. God said it was not good that man should be alone, so God created him a helpmate. They were no longer two but became one flesh, and it was all good in the eyes of the Lord. So they are no longer two, but one. Therefore what God has joined together, let man not separate. That word will stand from here to eternity. God has ordained the marriage relationship to be in order. He has ordained that man be the head of the home, and the head of every man is God. A woman can follow a man anywhere when she feels secure in knowing he has directions, dreams, aspirations, and potential. He just won't settle for anything that life has to offer him. If this man follows God, which is a bonus, then a woman can follow him to the ends of the earth, because she knows God directs his steps. She can follow a man who follows God.
End of part 1. Divine Destiny, Equipping the Family for Success by Linda Clark Burley. Please subscribe to receive part 2 of this book Building on a Solid Foundation, Part 3, Married with Children, and Part 4 of this book, In the Season of Your Life. This audio book has been brought to you today by the Burley Trust Group. As we stated, if this content has helped you and you like this content, please leave a comment and let everyone know about the greatness that this book has provided you. Once again, we want to thank you for watching. Until next time, you are somebody.